everyone. Can you all hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I can.
All of you? I think somebody else also is joining. Just wait for 5 minutes. So we have Manik, Shubha, Chandu, Ranjani, Ratika. Right? Okay, I think we can start. Okay, first of all, thank you, Chandu. As usual, you're always like you come whenever I request you to come and make a presentation. To all other soul sisters, thank you for joining in. And first of all, let me also say that today is International Forest Day, and like every year, like the theme is different. So this year's theme is biodiversity. Okay, so we thought let's start. Birds are part of a biodiversity. So let's have a session on birds. So I invited Chandu because he is such a good presenter, and always encourages and volunteers with a lot of NGOs and create awareness about ecology and conservation amongst a lot of people around here and the NGOs.
Yeah.
So Chandu,
Now.
thanks again. Please, you can start the presentation.
Thanks, Geetanjali. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay,
Okay,
all of
thank
you
you.
can hear, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Geetanjali, for introduction. So as Geetanjali said, I'm a bird watcher. So more than bird watcher, I call myself a nature lover. So birding is one of the part. So I also go visit places and where I share my passion about birding with kids and adults as well. So in the interest of time, I'll just quickly start with the presentation. So we just talk about birding, what we call as bird watching or birding. So this is a free presentation which you can also use. I will send the link after the presentation. So it gives you an introduction to bird watching. This is done by Bird Count India. This is not my presentation, but I use it. It's open for all. You can also use this presentation for your own sake as well as to educate others.
Chandu,
All right?
just 1 second. I'm going to, interrupt to all the other participants. If your window is also open, other windows are open like Facebook and Twitter, I'll request you to close that so that you can have a better bandwidth and you can enjoy the presentation better.
Yeah, thanks, Gitanjali. Yeah, this is a nice illustration from Rohan Chakravarti. In case you are following his cartoons, makes some very nice cartoons on nature and wildlife. Let me just get started with the slides. We just quickly talk about Indian birds in the context, and we start how we have birds which are small size and which are large size. How many of you are into bird watching here? I just checking. I know there aren't many people, but yeah, okay. So it's easy to connect. Yeah. So you can see the birds on the right and the birds on the left. So those who already knows the bird fairly enough. The bird on the right is a Saras crane, and the bird on to the left is a munia. I am not getting into the details of what munia are other, but just giving you an introduction. So you have birds with a smaller size to birds which are really large, and some of the common birds to some of the rarest birds. The bird on the left you'd see in and around your house, which is a myna. And the bird on the right is a very rare bird. It's called a Jadon's cooser. It's a very rare bird found in only pockets of forest in Andhra. It's been rediscovered after many years. And yeah, so there are birds which are very beautiful and colorful, as you see on the one on the right, a Himalayan monal, which is found near Himalayan foothills, not foothills, sorry, near Himalayas. And the bird on the left is also a very commoner. You will see in your gardens. It's called a flower pecker, which you would see close to your homes. Again, there are different flower peckers that you get to see. And yeah, so you can find birds in desert and also in dense forest. So you can guess which bird is right now in a desert habitat, which bird is in a dense forest. You can clearly see one on the left is a desert bird, and one on the right is one something found in a forest. And yeah, we have this is anyway the information is here, but you can also usually if you have time, I would usually ask this question: how many species of birds you get to see in India? Uh, so you have, but anyway, it's here. So you have 1,200 species of birds that you can find across India of different habitats and different colors, sizes, and shapes. So some of the birds listed here are very interesting birds. Um, the one, the owl is a forest owlet, which is a rare bird, which is rediscovered recently. And the one on the left was what would have been the national bird of India if Salim Ali's recommendation was taken. So you all know the national bird of India is peacock, right? The Indian peafowl, but the bustard on the left could have been the national bird of India. It was there was a controversy about it. Salim Ali was recommending that, but then everybody went ahead and picked up peacock. The story about that. Just a small snippet. Am I going too fast? Is it okay? Is
Yeah,
my
yeah,
pace
it's
okay?
okay. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Just connecting back to why let's understand about little about birds and why we should do bird watching and what is that people do when they say bird watching. So yeah, birds are not new. They're part of our culture and mythology. So you can identify the one on the left is Garuda, what we keep talking about in Hindu mythology. The closest that you get to see in our neighborhoods is called a Brahmini kite on the right. So which resembles a Garuda, is what people believe. So it has a significance near temples where people treat it as Garuda equivalent. And of course, this is also a very famous mythology story. We all know about Ravan and Sita and the Jatayu that apparently turned up is close to a vulture that we get to see in the current world. And you all know that, in case you must be knowing that the current population of vultures is in decline thanks to diclofenac, which is widely used medical for cattle, which cattle when administered retains for a longer time, and when the cattle dies and when the vulture consumes that meat, it affects its kidneys, and there's a huge decline of population of vultures
Yeah,
across our
Chandra, I
country.
think Swati wants to say something.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Swati, you raised your hand, so do you want to say something? No, I think nothing, maybe by mistake. So you can
Okay.
continue, Chandu.
Sure. You can stop me whenever you want. You want to say add something, please feel free to add.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not that I don't want it to be a monologue, but in the interest of time, I'm just trying
yeah,
to quickly go through this.
yeah.
Okay. Right. So besides these two stories that we hear, if you go to Northeast India, the Hornbills are part of their folklore, their culture very much. So the castes are used by tribemen or village head of some tribes. Besides the Saras cranes on the left are a cultural significance. They mate for a lifetime. So there is a story that if one of the mated pair dies, the other one also dies. So people use Saras crane as an example to show, say, uh, a, how a wife and husband should be, or how a relationship should be, things like that. So birds have been part of our folklore and mythology. It's not something we are talking about today. Yeah, this is an interesting slide which I want you to start guessing, and I know there are answers there, but you can start connecting to things. So all you can see that there's a shape of, so probably things that we wouldn't notice, but you can just start paying attention. So you see the birds with the beak shapes of different sizes and shapes, and you can see the purpose of each of them. Can you guess the one on the extreme left top, the gray color generalist? What birds do you think will have that beak?
Crows and all.
Yeah, crows. Yeah. So crows have a beak like that because it eats almost everything, right from your kitchen waste to dead rats, any dead things, whatnot. It's very flexible, eats everything. But to the right side of it, the insect catching, do you notice how the bird beak is? Very sharp, short. So those are the birds which actually catches flies. So they have their beaks designed to catch particular fly. So if I'm catching flies, I would probably, or small insects, I wouldn't need a long beak. I rather want a short and sharp beak so I can catch them and eat them. Now, the one on the right further is a probing one. The third one on the first row is a probing one. Anybody wants to guess what that one is? In case you have seen it.
Abyssals.
Yeah, something closer. Yeah, so but can you guess what the bill is for? No, the beak. Bill is nothing but beak in birding language. So why do you think it needs that kind of beak?
Maybe
Just guess it.
it wants to get inside water or something.
Yeah, it gets
Reaching
inside water.
long for a long reach.
Yeah, probing. Yeah, long reach is one, but also it does probing. So it that shape it can probe in the mud on the and
Okay.
catch its
Uh-huh.
prey. And the one on the right, first row, last item is something which you all know, easy to recognize. Uh, Flamingos, yeah. So have you observed or have you read about why flamingos are pink in color? Or where they get the pink color?
From the kind of
It's very
algae
interesting.
they eat.
Yeah, the kind of algae they eat actually brings the pink color in their body. So if you notice flamingos that are in the zoo and versus the ones in the wild, you would see that the variation in the pink color. That's because the ones in
Yeah.
the zoo will not get the algae required, and they end up turning more whiter compared to the ones in the wild. The most important point here about since we're talking about beaks is their beak is shaped is in a very unique shape because they filter the water and pick up the algae that they need and eat them. So that's why the beak is in that shape. And the second row, the first one is a grain-eating bird. Can you think of any grain-eating birds that you had seen with that beak?
The
Very common.
sparrows, munias.
Yeah, sparrows and munias. Yeah, so sparrows and munias have a conical shaped beak, if you notice. So any guesses why it has that kind of beak?
To crush the grains.
Yeah, to crush the grains, because that strong beaks will help them crush the grains and eat them. So that's why all grain-eating birds, not all, but most grain-eating birds have it. The next one is a coniferous seed-eating. Okay, this is a very interesting bird. In fact, you can Google and find more details about this one. Anybody wants to guess the bird? So
Crossbill.
yeah, so it's called a crossbill because its bill is crossed. So if you notice, all the birds have a bill which is closed. A bill is nothing but beak which is closed. But a crossbill, as the name goes, has a bill like this. It's crossed. It's not closed. It's crossed. So that's a very unique adaptation this bird has because it's meant for a purpose. I will not explain that. I would rather keep it open for you to go search more about it. There are videos
Okay.
explaining why its beak is like that and how it uses that beak.
Mm.
You will see the video. You can search for a bird called crossbill. You'll find some very interesting videos of why its beak is like that and how it uses it for its own purpose and for its own benefit. You can read about it. It's fun. It's one unique variety of birds called crossbills which have this adaptation, a beak which is not closed but crossed. So moving to the third row, This is the nectar feeding birds, which you would have seen in your garden, very common ones.
Sunbirds.
Yeah, sunbirds, which feed on nectar. So if you have a garden and if you have any uh, flowers which have a lot of nectar, be it bottle brush or even a hibiscus, you would see sunbirds, small birds, we call it sunbirds, which come for feeding on the nectar. So those are nectar feeding birds. And if you observe, the beak is very sharp and striped. Any guesses why? Do you want to guess why its beak is in that shape?
To reach to the flower, nectar in the flower.
Yeah, right. So say because flowers are not like flat and open, right? Not all flowers are flat and open. So there are flowers which will be deeper. There'll be nectar will be hidden deep inside. So to reach out to that, it has long beaks.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't always solve the problem. Have you seen datura flower? It's something called
Yeah.
datura. There are different flowers which are trumpet-shaped flowers, which are very long or deep trumpet-shaped flowers. So even the size of the beak will not be enough. Guess what will happen?
They puncture it.
Yeah,
They
they
puncture
do
at the
puncture.
bottom of the, yeah.
Yeah, but without puncturing, is there what else can it do?
Uh,
So just imagine if you are all okay, as your kids, at least we would have eaten cone ice cream, right? Sorry.
yeah.
So when we start, it's right on the top. We eat
We
it.
eat
After that,
we eat cone ice creams even now.
yeah, of course, yeah. So what do you do when you start eating it? You eat the top part, right? Then
Yeah.
it goes slightly below the level of the cone. What do you do next?
We eat the
Start
outer
eating the
part
cone.
also.
Yeah, we start eating the cone and we use our tongue, right? So that we use our tongue and get it out,
Ah,
right?
right.
Right. So we use the tongue to we extend our tongue to reach out to initial some part of the ice cream, right? Something
Yeah.
similar the sunbirds do. You'll be surprised their tongue is longer than their beaks.
Mm.
Unlike us, probably our tongue extends slightly, but if you look at sunbirds, their tongue can extend beyond their beaks, much beyond their beaks. So as I explained about ice creams, so just like how we use our tongue to reach out, they also extend the tongue. If the flower is too deep, so they put the beak and then extend their tongues deep inside to reach out to the nectar. And as a part, while they do this, the pollen uh, gets onto their face or onto the beak. And when they go from flower to flower, they help in pollination as well. So, you can watch it right in your garden when next time when you see a any flower which is uh, which is blooming, you can see this small sunbirds coming and feeding. You see all the adaptations we just discussed. The next one, probably we won't see them in India, but it's a very interesting adaptation. So some of these birds have fruit eating. So just imagine. So as the name says, they are fruit eating birds. Now, if I'm eating fruits, why do I need a beak like that? Any guesses? So, for example, you went to supermarket. You want to pick some fruits. So you go to the grocery stores or supermarkets, and what do you? So you want to get a few fruits, right? So what do you do? Say you picked up two fruits. Your hands are full. So what do you do?
Yeah, basically, they want to store it. I mean,
Yeah, right. You're right, man. So they actually use it to store, and also there are a variety of birds. Hornbills. The bird in the picture and the illustration, not in the picture. Sorry. Is are found in the in the southern America, but the ones you can see here in our country are hornbills, which have not a beak like this, but a very similar beak. The one in the picture in the illustration is a toucan, TOUCN toucans, or the hornbills here, which have a longer beak, so they can swallow seeds. They can carry seeds in the beaks as well as they can swallow and regurgitate the seeds and feed it. So you can also read. There's some interesting story about hornbills and how they nest. like hornbills, how the female will be inside when it starts breeding and the male will be outside and closes. The female will be, once it lays eggs, will be inside a cavity of a tree, seals itself, sits there. And the male goes, gets a lot of fruits and insects for the female and feeds it. So it's a very interesting story about how hornbills actually go about their life. So
Yeah,
they need a
yesterday
huge
I think
old tree.
yesterday I shared the video from Paki. I think all of
Oh, great. Okay.
yeah.
So it's a very interesting story. You can read about it as Gitanjali pointed out. You can refer to the video. It's a very interesting story. So how the male goes and brings all the food and female sits inside. So if the male is gone, the whole family starves out. Moving over, the aerial fishing birds, the one in the blue and brown, which is another common bird you will see in your neighborhood. The kingfishers, which have a sharp, pointed beak, so that they go catch fishes, and they need the sharp beak so that they dive inside the water and catch them. So if you have a blunt beak, like say a crow, it's not easy to dive inside the water and catch it. So it's engineered for that. The bird next to it is a pursuit fishing. So these guys actually go inside the water, chase the fish, and catch them and eat them. So you see the beak shape is sharp and straight so that they can dive in, swim inside the water without much trouble. And the last one, the last row, first one is the chiseling one. You can guess which bird has that chisel kind.
Woodpecker.
Yeah, woodpecker. The woodpeckers have very strong beaks. And woodpeckers is also a very interesting story. Have you ever thought how a woodpecker finds out where a grub is? So you all know, I'm assuming you all know what woodpeckers eat. So they eat,
Tiny insect.
yeah, insects. They may insects which are actually burrowing a tree. Now, have you ever thought how a woodpecker finds out where the insect is?
No.
So because there's a huge tree, right? On the whole tree, how will it find out where the insect is? Because the insect will be inside the tree, making and eating inside. But how will it find out where exactly is the insect?
A
Any
hole in the
guesses?
tree. Hole.
The insects always doesn't make holes, and even for a woodpecker to make hole, it needs to know precisely where it has to make the hole. Just guess.
Where the trunk is hollow.
Yeah, yeah, that's one way. So you would have, if you have wood around, when you knock a piece of wood, you'd see the difference in noise or the difference in sound between a wood which is hollow versus a wood which is not hollow. So it can go hit wood and find out whether it's hollow, and when it finds a hollow, it knows that there's a grub inside. Then it makes a hole and gets the grub out. So, but this is one way it gets it. The second way it also does is it can hear, because if there's a grub inside eating, it can also hear some noise, because if there's a caterpillar eating inside, it can also hear that and find out that there's a grub. Yeah, so that's it's a smart way that it goes about feeding. So if you notice, it's one way helping. I would call it the doctor of the forest, or doctor of the trees in the forest, to a certain extent, because if there are no woodpeckers, the trees will be in trouble with all the wood boring beetles, what we call as wood borers or boring. Not the boring beetle; they're interesting, but the wood boring beetles we call as. So they will bore the wood, and then eventually they kill the tree if untreated. But in the forest, nobody treats those trees, so that's where the woodpecker comes in. So this guy goes, finds out all the grubs in the tree, makes a hole, gets them out, and then keeps the trees in the forest healthy and out of all the infections. I'll say out of all these beetles which destroy them otherwise. But yeah, just to add to that, it's a very interesting thing about woodpeckers. So just to extend to what we discussed. So say if a woodpecker, I made a hole, but then the grub will not be immediately available. The grub inside will make a narrow passage, so it can go up and down. So sometimes when it makes a hole, it might not capture the uh, grub. So for that, to solve that problem, the woodpecker has another mechanism. Any guess? Because see, if I make a hole here, it's not that the grub will be sitting and waiting for the woodpecker to be picked up. It runs away, goes down somewhere here, somewhere below. Now, how will the woodpecker reach out to that? It cannot make another hole because it will be waste of. I mean, not waste, but it doesn't want to make another hole and spend energy.
No idea.
Maybe by tapping outside, disturb it or something like that.
Yeah, ma'am. We're closer. So that's where the tongue of a woodpecker comes to picture. So the tip of the tongue of a woodpecker is like a chisel, and just like sunbirds, the tongue of a woodpecker is much longer than its beak. You'll be surprised. You can search for videos of woodpecker tongues. Two adaptations it has. It has very long tongues which it can fold up. So if this is the head, if the tongue goes out like this, this is the tip of the bill. The tongue goes out even till this much, and then such long tongue it can roll it up and like if you notice the watches have a rolling thing, just like that it can roll it up, roll the tongue up and keep it in its head. You can read more about it. I'll just stop here, but that's one part of it. Long tongues, so that in the trunk, if we make hole here, if the grub is here, it tongues goes and catches it. Now to catch and pull it out, the edge or the tip of the tongue of a woodpecker has a harp kind of thing, which is like a hook. So it sends it makes a hole, sends the tongue down, and then pierces the grub and then pulls it out. It's nice adaptation that woodpeckers have, and it would have evolved over the years. I don't know how many years it would taken for a woodpecker to master that. So very interesting things about this. Yeah, I'm just keeping a tab on the time. I think we're good. So then we have other birds which do dip netting, as we call as, like how you catch, uh, like humans catch fish using nets, right? So you have pelicans, which have they have a skin under the neck which is like very extensible and flexible. So the way it catches, you can see videos of how a pelican catches a fish. So it goes gobbles the whole, scoops up the fish along with the water, and then the fish cannot go out because a pouch which is extendable beyond its neck will still be there. It takes the water out and eats the fish. So that's how it nets the fishes out. The one next to it is a scavenger, which you all know is a vulture. But have you noticed, if you look at the pictures of vultures, especially, I'm just referring to the ones that you found in India, so that you can connect to it and see. Have you noticed something peculiar? What do you observe in the picture compared to other birds? How the scavenging vultures have a different beak? What do you think is the vulture different from others? There are a couple of things. If you notice, compare the scavenging bird.
The beak, the broadness near the head is bigger.
Yeah.
Broadness near the head.
Why is it broad, ma'am? I mean, how is it different from others?
Others are not so much broad.
Okay.
Some are.
Yeah. So if you notice, yeah, there are no feathers or hair in our common language hair, but
Yeah,
if there are no feathers, still almost the head. It's kind of bald.
yeah.
Not bald actually, but just to make it easy for you, I'm just saying it's kind of bald. Have you noticed that? So why do you think the vultures have this? So what is the inconvenience if you're eating a
So
dead
if
animal? If you have hair all over the
so,
place.
all the flesh and blood it will
Yeah,
tear on the hair. No?
yeah. But I really don't know if there's reasons beyond. This is speculation that I'm talking about. It can be if there's hair all over, it can stick. but I don't know if there's other reasons why it has. But besides that, there's a small hole. I know this illustration doesn't give you, but it has a very good sense of smell. So if there's a dead animal which is rotting and smelling, it can smell it from kilometers away because it has a strong nostril, a big nostril, and a strong sense of smell, which can help it detect dead birds, dead animals from miles away. And the last one is a raptorial or birds of prey or raptors, what we call as in generic, or eagles and other birds of prey, which have very strong beak if you notice, because they have to tear the flesh and open. Like if it picks up another bird or another animal, it has to have very strong and sharp beak so that it can tear it and eat it. You'll see in the next couple of slides. So any questions before I go to the next slides?
Good thing is, I just received a message that Zoom has,
Upgraded.
extended. I mean, they have given us,
Oh,
there is
good.
no limit of 40 minutes, so we can
Nice.
extend a bit,
Thank you.
so you can,
Okay.
no need
Sure,
to
sure.
rush it out.
Oh, okay, then it can be better. Yeah, any other questions, ma'am, before I move to the next slide? You want to, or you want to share some of your observations? Feel free. Now that we have time.
Provided they have time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. And I assume the silence means there are no questions. I can go at my own pace now that we have slightly extra time. Right. So since we talked about, I know that I spent quite a bit of time because there's things which we know but don't notice because we're busy with our own lives. But if you start observing these things, there are many such interesting things about birds. So this just, we talked about only the beaks and behaviors or food they eat. We just made that connection, but there's many other interesting things. So I just explained a few minutes back. Right? So you can see the beak and the kind of habitat the bird is in. So it's probing the sand for some food. And the crossbill, which we just discussed to the right, is the crossbill. You can see clearly the red color bird on the right hand side top is the crossbill. You can please Google more about crossbill, how it eats or how it feeds. It's very interesting. The one below is a bird which you find near near rivers. Chambal is one place where it's it's seen in good numbers. Of course, in south you get to see them near the sea coast or sometimes near rivers. It's called Indian skimmer. It has a very long, very interesting shaped bill, so it can pick up water or it can pick up fish also while flying like that. The bird on the right extreme bottom corner is an osprey, which eats fish primarily, as you see in the picture. So you can see the beak in action, what we discussed. So the raptorial bird, which has a strong beak because it has to tear the flesh and eat. So there's some connections to what we just discussed here. And another interesting thing about birds is the way they migrate. So we keep hearing, right, that birds migrate. So do you want to guess why birds migrate? What is the need for them to migrate?
To survive.
Yeah, survive. Yes, and a bigger picture is survive. Yeah, but why does it need to move to
Breeding.
survive?
And then breeding also.
Breeding, yes, but it can breed there. Why is that? Say, for example, if there's a bird in further up north, say somewhere in Russia or Siberia, why is that the bird has to migrate down to equatorial region?
Because in winter the weather becomes very harsh.
Yeah, the
It
weather,
can't survive in that weather.
seasons. Yeah, seasons is one of the primary reason. I agree with you. The food availability, season,
Yeah.
and the breeding grounds. The variety of reasons, but prime reason is seasons. The weather. If the weather is not conductive, there's no food. There's no breeding conditions that are good for it to breed. So a couple of examples shown in the picture. The one on the left is the Arctic tern. So though it's called Arctic tern, but it does a long migration from the pole to pole. So you can see the picture showing how it migrates. But the fascinating thing about the bird on the left is the Arctic tern, the white with the red beak and the black on the head. So with a globe showing below it, it shows its migration route. So it takes off from the Arctic and flies all the way to Antarctica, and then again flies all the way to Arctic. So 6 months it will be South Pole. To make it very simple, 6 months in the South Pole, 6 months in the North Pole, and it does pole to pole migration in a if you notice the picture. So 1st June to 1st August it will be on the north, and 1st December to 1st April it will be in the South Pole. So and while doing this migration, the amount of kilometers it covers will be staggering. It will be 70,000 kilometers that it covers in a year, flying all the way around. It's like one end of the globe to the other end of the globe.
Yeah.
So as you know, how the weather changes from pole to pole. So you have right now I think we just finished the equinox, so we are moving to summer in the northern hemisphere. So it should be flying back to I think by 1st June it will reach the North Pole again. June to August it will spend and then again fly back. It's a huge migration. And the bird on the right, to your right in the screen, to my right here, is Amur falcon. It's another fascinating bird. So there's a place in near Mongolia or near Russia and China border. The one which is marked in green is its breeding range. So it breeds there, and around October, September end or October, mid-October onwards, they start flying to Africa to spend winter in the Africa, because as we discussed, it gets cold there and food availability is a problem. Whereas Africa, by the time you have lots of insects to feed on in the field. But what it does is it comes to Northeast India in Nagaland and a few other states in Northeast, where they rest for a few days and feed on the local insects there. And once they take off from the Northeast India, non-stop, it flies for 3 days to reach Africa. It hits Somalia non-stop. Of course, there are cases where it stops only for temporary, just like few hours or so, and moves. So how I know this data? Because there are satellite tagged Amur falcons which were released, and as I speak, there are a couple of falcons which are being tracked by central government. I mean, by WIA, Wildlife Institute of India. So they're tracking these falcons and they're using satellite transmitters, and they found that once the bird take off from the northeast part of India, it flies non-stop to Somalia in just 2 to 3 days without resting anywhere. You can just imagine. Yeah. So,
yeah,
but
Chandu,
there are
Chandu, myself and Manik have been very lucky. Actually, I think after the session, I'll show the video wherein how the falcons are tagged. I have a video, and we had a good session there. I think Manik will agree. She was also there.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it
You
was
are very
amazing.
lucky.
Yeah, so then everybody will get an idea how the falcons are tagged and how important it is to learn about the amazing behavior of these birds.
you should go to Nagaland and see the numbers in October. Last week of October is the best time to go to Nagaland to see this dam where they all congregate. The numbers will just blow your mind off. you see lakhs of birds flying in the air, all Amur falcons. It's a spectacle to watch.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah, it's wonderful because not every day you can see. Yeah, ma'am.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Please
Please.
go ahead.
Yeah, not every day you can see 1 lakh birds flying right in front of your eyes, and they're not small birds, mind you. They're not slightly bigger birds. So it's fun to watch them.
And it's fun, and it's I'm still amazed, like how they don't hit each other. I think there's some sort of research being done on that, but it's amazing when you look up on the sky and you see them flying, but they don't like bang on each other.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Right. So I had an opportunity to volunteer visit. So it's bang on at 6:50 in the morning. I see the first falcon coming in. And then slowly, one after another, I think one day in a single spot we counted 3,000. Again, this is Assam. The numbers are low, but still in Nagaland you get to see them in lakhs. So I was amazed on the high tension wire. You see them sitting, not leaving an inch of space. So and the locals call it mala chidiya. So like the whole electric wire will be full of these birds sitting. because it looked like a mala for them, so they call mala chidiya. It's a sight to watch. And again, in April, they all fly back from Africa to Amur, the green area breeding range. This time they don't. They're not. They might stop few of them, but they usually fly through India and back to China, but they won't stop over. Maybe few birds stop over, but there's more study to be done on the return part. That's under progress right now. So April is when they fly back, and October is when they fly back to Africa. So that's some amazing stories about bird migration. I can't play the audio. I think I didn't tag the audio, but there's something very interesting about bird songs. So the bird on the left is a Malabar whistling thrush. As the name goes, it's wonderful to hear the bird calling. You can just type for a bird called Malabar whistling thrush and its call. You won't believe it's a bird that is calling. It's like a whistle, like somebody walking on the road and whistling it. You have to hear it before, rather than me explaining it. Just type for Malabar whistling thrush. You will be surprised to hear its call. And the bird on the right is again common hawk, which also calls very nicely. And play those songs because I think I will not be. That audio is not linked, so I can't play that. But there's something very interesting about bird songs. So some of those bird songs are connected to season. Like there's a bird called Jacobian Cuckoo, or I mean, I forgot the local name. The Jacobian Cuckoo arrives in India. There are two races. One that comes from Africa. Just when the monsoon starts, the winds will start blowing from southwest. That's why it's called southwest monsoon. So it uses that winds as an advantage and reaches India just when the monsoon arrives. So if you hear the bird calling, you know the monsoon is arriving. It's very interesting connections that you can make. The Jacobian Cuckoo is what we call it. Then now we're talking about birds, and what are the threats to birds? So unfortunately, they're being hunted. The picture on the top is the Amur falcons, which are being hunted. A lot of NGOs intervene and stop that now, thankfully. So that's Amur falcon being hunted and taken away. And the one below is the vultures being poisoned. And there's some cartoon about how Indian bustards, great Indian bustard, are really have very low population right now because their habitat is being cleared for varieties of reasons. And now coming back to the key question for our session. So why is that we watch birds? What is bird watching? I mean, what exactly does that mean? So of course, though the formal study of birds, scientific study of birds is called ornithology, but the recreational study or recreational activity involved with observing birds is nothing but bird watching. So as somebody said, it's your lifetime ticket to the theater of nature. You start watching birds, there are a lot of interesting things. And if you ask me, the prime reason why we watch birds is, just for the fun of it. Just watch them. They're colorful, beautiful. They're easy to spot. Anyway, we'll talk in the next slide. They're very colorful birds. Birds are very colorful. They're lively creatures. They have their characteristics. They have their own unique, behaviors, which are very interesting when you observe. So some of them chirp in a different way. Some of them whistle. Some of them sing. They're all around us. You don't need. A lot of people think that to see birds you have to go to a forest. No, it's not the case. If you start observing, so there's a we keep talking about how seeing and observing are different, right? So we say that when we start observing things, you will be wondering, how come I didn't notice this all the while? So if you start watching birds, you'll be surprised, right? Sitting in your balcony, you can watch at least 5 to 6 different varieties of birds, depending on which place you live. If you're living in the outskirts, you can watch even more. I think Gitanjali knows that. From her office balcony, she watches so many birds.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's
I'm
fun
sure all
because
of
you don't
them
need to go anywhere.
do.
Yeah. It's fun. You don't need to go anywhere far. You can start from your home and you don't need any specialized equipment. Probably you can invest on a binocs, which doesn't cost more than 4 to 5K to start with. Of course, you have binocs that cost lakhs of rupees. But to start bird watching, all you need is just that interest and have the time and have a notebook so that you can note down all the details. And you have like when you're reading a book, you find a new word, you look up a dictionary, right? Similarly, for watching birds, sorry, I'm looking for my bird book. I can show you. My son has kept it somewhere. It's taken. So 1 second, I'll just get it.
So girls, I hope you people are enjoying the session.
Yes.
Hope it is not boring.
Wonderful. No. Getting a lot of information.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I know this has come reverse, but this is the Birds of Subcontinent pocket guide. Though it's called pocket guide, slightly heavy, so you can see the pictures of the bird and the names of the birds and their distribution and ranges, etc. This is very handy. You can buy a e-copy of mobile copy of it, so you can refer to it. All you need to do is watch the bird, note down how it looks like, and then refer to the bird and find out more details and identify it. So all you need is a notebook, a pencil, an interest to watch the birds. And yeah, if you can invest on a binoculars, around 4 to 5,000, you can get a decent binoculars. Because I'll suggest to invest on a binocs if you're starting bird watching, because when you see the bird through binocs, it's a different story altogether. You'll start appreciating the details only then. Otherwise, if you go bird watching on your with somebody who's experienced and who start throwing names around, you'll be lost. So I would recommend if you have a camera, that'll be even wonderful. But if you start looking through, to start with the binocs is good enough. Start watching birds. It's fun. So where to watch birds quickly? You can see them in forests. You can see them in scrublands, mountains. Again, different birds lives in different habitats. Wetlands, seas and seashores. Yeah. So before I go further, so here is some of the common birds that you see in a backyard. I don't want to bore you with too many information here because it's a long presentation with some of the common birds you get to see. I'll probably run through few of them to see you can identify them. The names are there, so you can also look up the house sparrows, which you are all seeing.
Yeah,
This is
yesterday
very
was
common in your backyard.
Mm.
Yeah, it's still, go ahead, Gitanjali.
Yes. Yesterday was a sparrow day. I think a lot of people
Yeah,
must have
yeah,
noted that. Yeah.
yeah. The red-vented bulbuls. The red-whiskered bulbuls. I personally do not want to throw away all the names because I'd rather keep it open for you to go watch the bird and find out the names. So skip these slides, and they again the water birds with the names given. So you can. I'll send you the link to the presentation. I think Gitanjali will forward it to you.
Yeah.
But what I would recommend is you watch the bird and try to find its name. It's fun actually. Trying to find its name and seeing what it is. That'll be more fun. But like say if you started bird watching, now how do I take it forward from there? So okay, if I start watching birds, what can I do more? So that's where I want to just add close this presentation with a couple of thoughts. So though we say that we know about birds, but in India, our understanding of birds is I would say bad or limited. It's increasing, it's improving, but still there's a lot of information that is required. So where the birds are distributed, what states? Say for example, if you say uh, a particular bird, you want to know where all it is found in India. We know certain details, but we still have to find more details. And as we speak, birds are not like us. They don't know any states. They don't know any countries. They keep moving between states. So you keep people, bird watchers, reporting saying the first record for the state, second record, first record for so and so state for so and so bird. So we are still learning that birds are moving. We are finding new information about birds and their movement, and also migratory routes and seasonality. So how birds are migrating, how they are adapting to the changes in the climate, uh, how they are adjusting to changes either man-made or due to nature is this thing that is evolving with sorry not evolving, which is still we need data to find out. And also how human impact is modifying or human modified environment is creating impact. It's still something that we need to find out. So one of the solutions which we talk about today is how can you, as a common person who wants to enjoy bird watching, can contribute to science. So it's in the olden days. It's I wouldn't say olden days. If you decade back or a little older than that, people think that watching birds is only ornithologist's job. I'm not into it. What will I do with that information? That's slowly changing with citizen science, as citizens like you and I can also contribute to information about birds. All we need to do is go out in your backyard, find out all the birds, and just log them into a platform called eBird. So it's not always that scientists will find out new things. there are bird watchers who found a lot of interesting observations about a bird which we thought is not found here has been found by bird watchers who are like normal people, not citizens, not scientists. They are citizens. So eBird is the name of that platform. So you can search ebird.org. So you say if you are in your backyard, you watch a bird, you can log into eBird. So this is a site where people across the globe can contribute their data. This is maintained by Cornell Lab of Ornithology, but this data is available for free for download for anybody. So if you want to know, you can check the website. There's a lot of interesting features.
And they have
The
an
global,
Android app also. Yeah, they have a
yeah,
mobile
you
app.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, you have a mobile app, so you can download it. All you need to do is select the location, tick all the birds, and see how many birds you have seen. Just note down and save it. Now, how you are going to help the scientists is, say if somebody is since this information is available for free for anybody across the world, so they can pull the information and find out how a particular bird species is doing. Recently, based on this report of people reporting data on eBird, there's a report that came out. It's called State of Indian Birds. I think I'll send the link later. Gitanjali will forward to you. So from the past few years, bird watchers in India are logging information to eBird. It's very famous in US. You have huge number of people logging data into eBird. So the reason is two things. So whatever information you are gathering, it's not lying in your in your machine or in your minds. It's being stored in eBird, so researchers can use it. Also, you can maintain your own list of whatever birds you have seen, where you had seen. So this way, we can get global information about birds, how they are distributed, how they are, whether their population is increasing or decreasing. All this information you can gather out. So rather than becoming a hobby, you can convert it into a citizen science contribution. So all you need to do is go to your backyard. You don't need to go to your forest. In your balcony, just watch birds for 10 minutes and log it to eBird. It's not mandatory 10 minutes, but this is recommend 10-15 minutes so that you get to see enough number of birds. Yeah, so for example, if you want to know how sparrows are distributed across India, so based on all the data contributed by citizens like us, they could map it. So every square is a record of sparrow population recorded on eBird. So besides this, there's something called Great Backyard Bird Count. Of course, this is a slightly older slide, but every year in the third week of February, they do this, what they call as Global Backyard Bird Count, where everybody in the world were asked to go to their backyard and count the birds and report on to eBird. And they collate all this data, and I think this year India has reported more than 900 species of birds. But more than, okay, there's a fun part to it, but more than the fun part, excuse me, is that though it's a hobby, it's a fun hobby. You start making connections to nature, and you also start observing different birds. You can travel and see birds, and more importantly, the data that you're contributing can be used to help conserve the birds. So when I say conserve the birds, it's also ultimately it can lead to a declaration of a place as a nature reserve or as a sanctuary. The impact can be huge. I don't want to highlight that birding is the only way to do it. Mammals are, everything is important, but it's as I say, it's a ticket for you to watch the nature. So for example, I started with birds, then I started understanding butterflies, then I also started showing interest with insects, and then with plants. It's fun. I mean, it's one of the ways to connect to nature is what I'll say. So that's, yeah, so this is all the people who helped with the pictures, who have given their pictures to be used for the presentation. And this has been done by Bird Count India as an independent organization with partnership with multiple organizations across India who work on encouraging bird watching in India. They made this presentation. You can also use this for your own understanding as well as for presenting with anybody.
So
And yeah, so you can go to,
any
you
questions?
can go, yeah, you can go to these sites and get more information. But I'm done with the presentation part, so you can ask me more questions. I'll be happy to help.
Thank you so much. It was really wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Any
much.
questions? Any questions?
Yeah, you can ask me more questions. I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead,
Can I?
Rajni.
Yeah, I have one question on about eBird.
Mhm.
If I want to use the eBird app for same location for multiple days,
Okay.
can I use that way?
Yes, yes.
Um, yeah, so you can go on adding checklists as much as you can. If you want to, and a lot of I can message. You can message me, ma'am. If you have specific questions on eBird, I also help as a volunteer for eBird data, so I can help you with any questions on eBird.
Okay, that's great. Then I will do that. Thanks.
Sure.
I'll share
So,
Chandu's number with all of you.
Yeah. Thanks,
you can.
Gitanjali.
Yeah.
I can send
Thank
my email address. If you have
Yeah.
any queries on eBird, I'll be more than happy to help you because I used it. I use it. I still use it, and I also downloaded data from eBird and played around understanding a lot of interesting trends. So it's fun.
Okay.
I can help you with
Thank you.
anything with eBird. No problem.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks.
Thanks again.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chandu. Thanks again, all of you. And I hope it was a very, helpful session. And hope to see you all again. Probably, we plan to have it once a month and with different subjects, different topics. And yeah, let's keep meeting virtually. Okay. Chalo, thanks again, Chandu.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Gitanjali.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.
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 Bye, everybody.
Bye.